What is up, my aesthetic boys? It's Fresh, back with another video. Today we have an episode of r/MaliciousCompliance. I enjoyed making it and I really hope you guys like it. Refuse to be served by a woman bartender and ask for a manager? Allow me to introduce you to her. A bit of backstory. I worked at a pub on and off for about 3 years. Not full-time, but rather on a 0 hours contract. Basically, I picked up shifts whenever I was back from uni, paid per shift. They had a decent turnover of back-of-house staff, so as someone who knew pretty much everything in there, I would generally be the person to fix issues whenever a newer member of staff had a problem. So, I'm on a barbecue shift, which means I'm running food outside. There's also a bar out there which was taken care of by a female coworker who we'll call FC, and every now and then a manager would check up and make sure everything was alright. We had 3 managers on at the time, and they generally helped out wherever was needed. Nobody was afraid to get their hands dirty. It was a quiet night, so we were basically chilling out there, serving the occasional burger or drink. Well, I go in to help on glasses since, as always, it was backed up, and when I came back out again, this guy was basically standing angrily by the bar. Female coworker is visibly upset, not crying or anything, but clearly not having a good time, and as I walk up, this guy sees my apron and puts his hands on his hips. "Finally, get me your manager. I want this girl gone," he says, or words to that extent. Now, I'm understandably doubtful she's done anything that bad, especially since she's relatively new. So before doing anything, I bring female coworker around the back and ask her. Turns out she'd messed up this guy's pint and he'd gone off about how women can't pour beer and that she shouldn't even be there. It was a man's job, etc, etc. I told her I'd sort it out, leave him with me, and you continue to watch the bar in the meanwhile. Now, I wasn't going to let this go unpunished, so here's where the compliance comes in. Remember, there are 3 managers on at the time. 2 are on the floor currently, both men and both perfectly capable of sorting this out, but the 3rd was female. We'll call her Kate. Now, Kate was the most senior manager on, hence why she was in the office sorting out admin and emails, etc., and she took absolutely no BS whatsoever. For reference, when she finally left the pub, it was to go work as a prison officer. She was a damn good manager for getting things done, but definitely not afraid to stamp her authority if need be. In short, not someone you want to be on the wrong end of. You can guess which manager I went to. She was at first annoyed I was trying to drag her all the way outside, but when I fully explained, she just stopped typing, stood up, and told me to lead the way, which I did, smiling all the way because I knew exactly what was coming next. I let her down, and as the guy sees us approaching, his face just falls off a cliff. I've never seen anyone go from angry to, oh no, that quickly ever since. It was just glorious. Kate is, of course, very polite, but makes a point of introducing herself as head manager of the pub. Not strictly true, but it got the job done. He stutters about having his pint messed up, and she tells him he can have another one on the house. Then, she proceeds to go behind the bar and pour it herself, before handing it to him. I can feel how badly he wants to complain about it from across the bar, but eventually he takes his drink and walks off without another word. Kate just gives me a look and a little smile before walking back to the office. Yes, it probably would have been more efficient to do literally anything else to resolve this whole thing. In fact, I probably could have just comped a drink myself and he would have pissed off, but oh, the result was worth it. Oh, wow, this blew up more than I expected. I'll try to answer a few of the questions. How did she mess up the pint? I don't know for certain, but I'm like 80% sure she had too much head. The outside bar has a limited selection of beers, and cider, strangely enough, on tap, but you have to roll the kegs down there yourself and get whatever manager is doing them to change them over. Depending on who rolls them, they can be pretty lively, especially if the keg is full or almost empty. Why did she give him a free beer? It wasn't exactly free since he had already paid for the first one and refused it, but we still had to put a pint on wastage on the system, so it worked out that way. Thing is, the pub is part of a chain, so reputation is more valuable than a single beer. Granted, he was an asshole, but as much as I'd have loved to pour his beer on his head, I'm pretty sure I would have been in deep trouble with Regional for doing so. I assume that's the same reason Kate didn't go off on him as well, but I don't know for certain. Long story short, you don't shout at customers, you smile and put up with it. It sucks, but that's how it is. What's the deal with her being new and less likely to make a mistake? Usually, the newer someone is, the more likely they are to make mistakes. The thing is, though, these are usually small mistakes, like following protocol and not knowing one part, and from the way he was reacting, You'd think she'd actively insulted him or done something serious. Knowing how strictly new hires follow the rules, I doubted she'd done anything that warranted that reaction, but I did ask her first to make sure. I'm there to solve problems after all, not to make them. Was this guy real? Unfortunately, yes. Truth be told, he's not even the worst I've had to deal with. A few people see a single bartender and no managers and like to try one on, though almost none of them are genuinely rude. The outside bar closes a little earlier than the inside one, but people really like to try getting free stuff while we're closing down. Admittedly, it might be because we're allowed one staff drink if we're on a close shift, and the chefs will usually just pour themselves one in normal clothes, but I don't know. Now, guys, while I'm not personally a bartender, nor have I ever been a bartender or waitstaff in a restaurant or any place that sold alcohol, I can confirm just from general experience being around drunk guys that people can be really horrible sometimes. Especially people of an older generation tend to be more sexist in different situations, and the influence of alcohol does not help. I definitely believe that this story could have taken place, 100%, because I've seen very similar things happen in all sorts of different areas. Like OP said, it sucks, but good on her for, keeping a solid face and moving on with her life. You don't want me to lie? Say goodbye to your sugar daddy. When I was fairly young, my parents separated and then divorced. My dad eventually moved to a small town up the coast. I stayed with my mom and soon-to-be stepdad. From ages 4 to 10, I lived with my mom and stepdad, spending holidays with my dad up the coast. A little after I turned 10, my mom asked what I wanted to do. Live with my dad or come with them when they moved to a small mountain town. I opted to move with my dad. For the first year with my dad, it was fine. Poverty-stricken, but we managed. I finished grade 5, and over the summer he had decided he wanted to move and get a roommate. Except this roommate was a chick that I didn't like. There was something wrong with her that I couldn't figure out till I was older. I'm gonna call her V. V immediately tried to supplant my mother. She would discipline me, teach me chores, etc. All things I would need to learn regardless. What bothered me was my dad had the hots for her, and he basically just let her walk all over him. He ended up paying the majority of the bills, she took over the space, her word was law, etc. I plan on writing some stories on how my father was known for being an entitled person enabler. At some point, she got pregnant by her then boyfriend. He was a well-off musician with family money and lots of property. She scored. Was she happy with that? Nope. She would drive around with me in the car. One of the places she would stop was some ramshackle trailer in the boonies. I was always left in the car when we went there. Sometimes, V would leave the trailer looking very disheveled, and a tall blonde guy would grab at her as she walked to the car. At the time, I was 11 years old and had a pretty good idea of what she was doing. I had no plans on saying anything. I knew the baby daddy and I liked him well enough, but I didn't think it was any of my business. Well, at least till V pulled some things on me. I can't remember what she screamed at me for, but I got lectured and V told me that I must always tell the truth. Lying was bad, etc., etc. My dad stood there and just let her. Cue malicious compliance. Shortly after V's tirade, she had left to visit the guy in the trailer. Not too long after that, the phone rang. This was 1992, no cell phones yet. It was the baby daddy, trying to contact V. Apparently they had made plans to meet up in a couple of hours and he was looking to speak to V. From this point on, I'm going to abbreviate the names like this. Me is me, dad is also obvious, V is V as previously stated, and BD for baby daddy. Baby daddy. Hey kiddo, is V there? I have a moment of clarity. Oh, hi, V isn't home. She's at Trailer Guy's place. Momentary silence. Did you say Trailer Guy? Oh yeah, she left about 45 minutes ago. He's clearly distressed. Thanks, kiddo. Nothing happened for the rest of the night, at least that I know of. The next day was a complete storm. V came home and went straight for me, screaming, crying, throwing things. My dad rushed in and asked what the hell was going on. She told baby daddy about Trailer Guy. How dare you? He broke up with me and he wants nothing to do with me and it's all her fault. She's ranting and crying. She ended up revealing the truth. While she was visiting Trailer Guy, BD showed up and banged on the door. Apparently he knew exactly who I was talking about. Whether they were in the same group of friends or something else, I still have no idea. Baby daddy yelled and banged on the trailer till V came out. He confronted her about her cheating, whether her pregnancy was even real, if the baby was his, etc. Trailer guy had no idea about her pregnancy and freaked out as well. Both of them completely shunned her and left her standing there with her clothes and her car. She apparently spent the rest of the night driving around till she ended up at baby daddy's house and went crazy on his door, demanding he let her in and take her back, etc. He ended up calling the cops on her and they escorted her off his property with a warning. Eventually, she made her way home and decided to take her anger out on me. V is screaming and asks me why I would do something that would destroy her life. You told me that I shouldn't ever lie. So I did what you asked me. I told the truth. That isn't what I meant about always telling the truth. She's right. You punished her for not telling the truth. She only did what you asked her to do. V looked like a guppy, mouth agape and sputtering. She stormed off. I later found out that baby daddy only agreed to child support and some visitation, but not in her company. I never heard about the trailer guy again. My dad ended up moving to another small place. I ended up moving in with my mom and stepdad for 2 years before moving back in with my dad. V never recovered. She became a thorn in my side for years to come, but that's for another post. Ooh, a little malicious compliance meets a little bit of r/entitled parents, folks. You'll love to see it. Allergic to pickles? Okay. So I used to be a manager for a large fast food chain through university. Most of our customers were nice and it was actually a pretty fun job. However, one day, I walked past the counter after being out in the lobby clearing up to hear someone screaming at a younger Saturday member of staff, "I am allergic to pickles! Okay? No pickles!" I then saw him practically throw a burger at this young girl. She looked really upset. I went over and inquired as to what was wrong, as in my mind, staff, and especially younger staff, don't get paid to be shouted at. He said, "This stupid girl put pickles in my burger and I asked her not to. I am allergic. I just want the burger sauce, lettuce, and burger. No pickles. How hard is that? I come here all the time and this girl is the only one not to understand." He was huffing and puffing and glaring at this poor young girl who had gone bright red. Now, I am sensitive to genuine allergy requests as I have an allergy myself, but this particular burger sauce has chopped pickles in it. It's well known to have pickles in it. I also get it must be frustrating to have your order made wrong, but mistakes happen, and we were always happy to sort it on the rare occasion that it did. I took the girl to one side and asked exactly what he said. As I thought, he had never mentioned an allergy and just said, "Hold the pickle." That's where my compliance came in. I walked over to him and apologized profusely. I then offered to make his burger for him myself, even though I was on lobby duty. He seemed pleased with this, until I asked him if he wanted ketchup or mayo. He seemed confused for a second, then said, "The burger sauce that comes with it," like I was being ridiculous. "But sir, you stated you have an allergy and the sauce has pickles in it. I have a duty to care to you now, and also to my restaurant. Ketchup or mayo? We also have barbecue." I kept my best customer service face, although I suspect my grin may have given it away. You could see the cogs in his brain working. Accept the sauce, or admit he was lying? Accept something he didn't want, or be outed as a liar and look daft? Eventually, he just looked pissed off, stated, "Ketchup then," in a very brusque manner. I took great pleasure in making the perfect burger for him. No pickles, no burger sauce. I do hope he enjoyed it and learned not to treat people like rubbish over a burger. Hey, he's been hiding the pickles under his tongue the whole time. Yeah, and they're the pickles from last time too. And they're my car keys. You want an aisle seat? Certainly, sir. A little airline malicious compliance. My mom has worked for a major airline for more than 35 years. She started off as a gate agent, which back in the 90s included assigning seats right before departure. While working a flight to Fort Lauderdale, an older man approached the desk and didn't ask, request, or inquire, but demanded that his seat be changed. The following exchange took place. "You need to change my seat. I'm not sitting in a middle seat. I want an aisle seat." "I'm sorry, sir, we have a full flight today. Let me see if I can." Now he's shoving his boarding pass in my mom's face. "I don't care. You need to change my seat to an aisle seat." "Certainly, sir. Let me see if I can." "I don't care how you do it. Just get me an aisle seat." "Certainly, sir." The old man was leaning against the counter, refusing to leave without a new boarding pass. My mom paged a different passenger. We'll call him Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith came up to the counter. "Good afternoon, Mr. Smith. I'm so sorry to bother. This gentleman here is requesting an aisle seat, and I see that you're seated in one. Would you mind terribly if we upgraded you to first class so that this gentleman can have your seat?" "Oh, sure. Of course. Thank you, that's so kind of you." Old man clearly flustered and outraged. But I want the first class seat." "Well, the first class seat is a window seat, sir. You specifically and repeatedly requested an aisle seat. Here's your boarding pass for your aisle seat. Have a pleasant flight. Next passenger, please." Old man's seat was originally in like row 10. Mom moved him to row 34, right next to a family with kids. Friendly reminder to always be polite to airline staff. Oh man, they had me in the first half. I didn't see that coming, I'll be honest. I did not see that coming, but I enjoyed it a ton nonetheless. Good on you, mom, boarding agent, flight attendant woman. Good on you. Scold us for doing more than we have to? Fine, I'll do my job. So, for compliance reasons, I can't say where I work or where it's located, but I work in a generic automotive manufacturing plant in the United States. Anyways, I'm just a contractor at this plant, so the management there doesn't really have power over me. But if you get on their bad side, which isn't hard to do, they'll do petty things to make working there harder for you. So onto my coworkers, who for privacy we'll just call E and C. Now, E and C are, without a doubt, some of the hardest workers I've ever met. I never used to see them slacking off, and they were always looking for something to do. They were trained in multiple facets of the plant and would help out wherever was needed. Sounds like exactly the type of employee that any employer would kill to have, right? Well, this story wouldn't be here if that were the case. The management over our shift started doing some pretty shady and pretty petty things, like threatening people's jobs over petty things and then proceeding to do the exact same thing, training quote-unquote people to do their job while they did nothing with no intention of ever hiring that person into their position, etc. Well, E&C caught on and started hinting that they knew and weren't okay with what was going on. Well, this pissed off management, and they started making E&C do menial tasks and then mocked them when they didn't finish their work or their menial tasks they were given. Then, after a few weeks of this, they started just getting absolutely destroyed for not doing their jobs properly and got told they needed to do their jobs properly. So, what did E&C do? They went down to HR and got the descriptions of their jobs and what they are required to do as per their job duties. And they started doing just that. They didn't help out the other areas of the plant when they were falling behind. They didn't look for other things to do. They did their jobs and nothing more. Except for helping me out when I needed them because we're cool and I treated them professionally. So production at the plant has started to fall behind a bit since then, and since we no longer have two hardworking people making sure that everything is running smoothly, and management is getting even more pissed now. But E&C did what they were told to do. They're now doing their jobs thoroughly, properly, and in a timely manner every day with no distractions from menial tasks or other areas of the plant. These plant managers have embarked on a trip, but not in any vehicle you might recognize. They've set out on a power trip, consumed by the primal desire to take control, even when that control is turning the barrel on yourself. It may not be a common occurrence elsewhere, but it's a trip often taken in the malicious compliance zone. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. Be sure to subscribe for more daily Reddit content. Drop a like if you liked the video, and I will see you all tomorrow.